it's a low margin business, and inventory is a silent killer, and sitting on the wrong inventory and sitting on inventory that's depreciating is a silent killer of all dealers. And so the way to win is not to do something fancy. It's to execute the little things very, very well. Hello.
Hey, how are you?
Hey guys.
Hey, buddy.
That's what's so unique about you is you come from that used car side, right? Like your roots are like in the independent space, which I love when you ask those questions. What would you say, Yossi, do you see independence missing? Like, where are we missing the mark as independence now that you've had such an exposure to the new car, the franchise, the fancy, shiny NADA convention and world where everything's like
Yeah.
top shelf, like what are the independents missing?
It really is a very stark juxtaposition when you go from the indie side to the franchise. Because listen, at this point, I've spoken with more franchise dealers in my life than independent dealers. I swear to you, I feel like I know the franchise business better at this
Yeah.
point. I say that like sarcastically, but it's where I spend my time, right? That's our ideal listener profile is the 32 to 48-year-old, even older, I would say at this point. It's like 36 to like 52-year-old franchise dealer with multiple rooftops. It doesn't mean that we don't have dealers in their 20s, and it doesn't mean we don't have dealers in their 80s and 90s and 70s. We do, but we know who gets the most value out of our content. And it's that up and coming, typically second or third gen. They really want to, innovate and kind of be more progressive. They're looking to learn. They don't have maybe an established peer group or network as well as their fathers or older people in the industry. So, anyways, but to answer your question, I think one of the biggest learnings going from being an independent to speaking with franchise dealers was that it just seems like franchise dealers do a better job of leveraging data. And I say that like holistically in everything they do. When I speak to some franchise dealers, there's just a higher percentage or a higher probability that I speak with someone. It's again, it's not everyone, but there's just more sophistication typically.
Mm.
And it's for many reasons. I mean, the franchise business is a bit more complicated to run. You typically need more capital. Um, there's like a vetting process. There's also like forcing functions that are embedded into the business, right? You got to submit your financials to the factory. Like there's other things, there's these basic controls that are in place that you cannot operate without, right? As an independent dealer, I know some independent dealers that like they just look at the bank account and like that's their like pulse in the business.
Oh yeah.
And by the way, I was there too. Like I ran a business like that at some point, right? Before I learned and I grew and all that. And the point I'm trying to make is, um, I think that it comes down to education, right? And being data driven is a part of being properly educated on the right way to run a business. And let me give you an example. I mean, let's look at inventory, right? How are we buying? Are we only using our gut, which is the gut's great. Love using our gut, but are we properly analyzing data in our markets? Are we understanding really what's moving quickly, what's slow, and what's our return on that investment, right? Okay, so maybe this vehicle moves super quickly, but does it make sense for us to continue selling this type of vehicle? And inventory is just one thing, right? We could talk about website. How are people interacting with my website? Do I have 10 pop-ups and my bounce rate is extremely high? So when someone gets to my VDP, they're just bouncing right off, right? Is my lead funnel, my vehicle inquiry form, is that extremely long and people are, it's getting like a 10% submission rate? Like I think all these things are things you have to ask yourself and question. And many don't. And like this is how like in this business success is unlocked at the margins. It's a freaking 5% business. Sure, some indies make 10% net and whatnot, but the point is it's a low margin business. And inventory is a silent killer. And sitting on the wrong inventory and sitting on inventory that's depreciating is a silent killer of all dealers. And so the way to win is not to do something fancy. It's to execute the little things very, very well. And what I just described are some examples of the little things, right? Like what's the up process on my dealership? What's my website like? What's that experience like? My virtual showroom, right? What happens in the F&I office? Like all these things I just think about. It's like all these little touch points are so important. And I think the more you can rely on a combination of data and really understanding what's working, what's not, and it combined out with your gut feeling and just anecdotal experience, I think that's where I see a lot of opportunity for independence.
I think you're exactly right here. I'm gonna push back a little bit on this. It's so much harder for an independent dealer to hire the right employee compared to the franchise side. Um, how do you see that, and what can a independent dealer maybe do to hire better people?
It's the toughest thing in the world. And I'll tell you something. I think that a part of the reason I was so driven to start Get a Car, my venture-backed online auto retailer that I launched in 2018, and went on to raise lots of money for and do all that, it was because I was just traumatized. I was like, why can't I attract the right talent? And what I realized was that the best automotive talent wants to be in a franchise. And then I said, well, why? And many reasons. It's the fancy showroom, typically better compensation package, all in all, right? Because they have more employees, they have better benefit packages, like they have more redundancy, so you have more work-life balance, and you actually have shifts, and you're working fewer bell to bells to a certain extent. The point is, the franchise dealership just does a better job at attracting talent in our industry. And for me, I said, okay, well, what can I offer to get someone to come work for me? And the only thing I could do as an independent, or at least I thought, was I can I can sell a dream of growth, of opportunity. And so the first thing I did when I launched my online business and I began, raising capital, these things was I went to hire. And I was able to attract people that I never would have imagined because I sold them the dream. So I think the thing that's holding back independence, the reality is, like, if you're not growing, you're declining. And I think as an independent, if you look at the independents that are able to attract talent, they're typically ones that are growing quickly or have reached some meaningful scale. And they're able, like, look at, Eastern's Motors. It's here on the East Coast, of course. Um, and that's just one example, right? But the point is, like, an independent that, or like there's like Car Shop, of course, that's Penske. You have auto lenders here. Again, I'm talking about East Coast brands here. But the point is, these are brands that have a story. They're growth focused. In many cases, they also don't have some special moat. I know auto lenders, they had their off lease company. It's a brand here, an independent retailer. They had their off lease company, so they did have a proprietary funnel of vehicles. But like Easterns is just a phenomenal execution play, and they've continued to show growth, and I think that's how they've been able to attract good people at that company. And many independent dealers just don't have that mindset, right? If you're not going to pay and you're not going to show a growth story, it's just like, why would someone come work for you? Like, you have to literally ask yourself that question: why?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've been struggling with that for years, and it's
I ask myself the question of why am I going to work today? So I have to ask myself that question of myself.
what I was getting to. It's hard to leverage the data if you don't have the people that can leverage the data. It's kind of where I was going to on that.
Well, even the sexy
It's
tools,
extremely
like
hard.
we don't get the sexiest of tools in our side of it. And if we do, they're unaffordable for one rooftop owner, right? I mean, I can't
Extremely
have
tough.
some of these buying tools because I don't have the scale and they don't have a stripped down, like I sell 30 cars a month version of that software, right? So we
You're
don't really
100%
get the
right. It's
coolest stuff. We go to NADA to look at all the cool new stuff that we can't afford,
Yeah.
like the
I
kid in the
know.
candy,
No,
toy
it
store.
comes down to, like, what do you want to be, right? What do you want to be? Do you want to be a 10? Listen, I think that two stores, even maybe three independent stores, is like kind of like a pitfall, a huge pitfall, in my opinion. I think it's like
Yeah.
you either have one or you have like five plus. And the reason I think about that from experience is that it's either you want to keep low overhead and be, minimalist, just like, take your distributions and call it a day, or you want to get to some level of scale where you can invest in some and build some operating leverage in your system, right? At
Yeah.
5 stores, or you can already start building some meaningful shared services, right? You can build, department heads. You can maybe have a head of variable ops, head of fixed ops at that point. You probably have your own service center. Like you can do things like that. You can build more talent. You can bring more talent. At one store, you're not bringing any of that talent. It's you and maybe one other person. At 2 stores, you're starting to lose control, but you still don't have enough leverage to bring in enough talent to get you to that next level. And so I just don't believe as an independent that, like, I think that's a huge pitfall to be at a couple stores. I think you really should think like, okay, I'm going to scale this freaking thing. Like, again, Eastern's Motors is a great example. I think they have like 10 to 20 stores. Or I'm just going to stay low overhead, low fixed cost, like, take my distributions. I don't want to, grow my overhead. And anyways, that's my take on that. Because to your point,
I think you're right.
you don't want to fall in the middle. The middle's a
You get
dangerous
stuck in,
place to be.
we know a lot of dealers that get stuck in the middle with bloated overhead, and they don't get past
Yeah.
that. So
There's no absorption of overhead with 2 stores. There is with 5. And that's where you
Scale
kind
of
of,
Correct.
managers and
Mhm.
VPs and all this other stuff that comes along with it. So that's my other question for you, Yossi, and I think this leads into it is knowing what you know now. Say you were just to like drop the whole media game and go out and be a practitioner, be an operator again.
Yeah.
Where do you see the most like opportunity or green space that you would go into with everything being an option? I mean, you could buy a Honda store in a big market, you could pick up a little Nissan franchise, you could do an independent, you could do a multi-store buy here, pay here. Maybe you go back to the online retailing thing. From your vision of the future, like where do you think your buck would be spent?
Look, brands are cyclical. First of all, I would definitely go franchise, no doubt about it.
Okay.
Um, because I think that I just want a more diversified business with more profit centers, right? I have service. I just there's more opportunities to make money and to be, recession resistant. And listen, used cars have been on a tear. It's been a used car, decade, frankly. I mean,
Yeah.
used cars are in such a good place. I mean, every new car dealer wants to be is focusing on used.
Yeah, they're
But I
like
do
four to
think
one,
that,
5 to 1.
yeah, I mean, used cars is the place to be.
So
But
what brand do you love? Which one would you go after?
look, it's more of like a personal question because me on a personal level,
Yeah.
I'll tell you, when I was 23, I went to buy my first piece of real estate with 2 friends, and I had saved up like $70,000. And the reason I did that was because the reason I did it with partners and I didn't just buy like a $70,000 cash flow piece of real estate was because on my personal investments, I typically like more like blue chip. I just like to spend more, even if my return is lower when I'm already investing. It's kind of like barbell method. Like in my day-to-day life, I take a lot of risk, like even this business, like it's, creative. It's kind of making something out of nothing, right? High risk and all that. Whereas, and my prior company, high risk. But then like when it comes to my investments, I like low risk. It's very like barbell. And so the point I was trying to make is like, even when that example, as I was a 23-year-old, I took that capital and I parked it in like a very blue chip piece of real estate at the time with 2 other friends because that was the only way I could afford to buy into that piece of real estate. So similarly here, yes, you could get deals nowadays on like Nissan stores, right? Because lots of Nissan stores are losing money. And now is probably a good time to buy. I would rather go for a more blue chip brand. Like, I don't know, like a
Mm,
Honda store or something. Just get something, you know, honestly, even GM is in pretty good shape right now. And I could probably get into that, but and I say probably because I have had a lot of opportunities. People reach out to me and operating partners. Hey, let's do this deal. Let's do that deal. I haven't pulled the trigger on anything yet. But the point is, I think I would go for something like that. Like who am I to even say I could get a Toyota or something? Like I'm not. There's people that I've been operating for decades and have all the relationships and they want those and great.
they're in line with millions
Obviously,
of dollars.
yeah, that's a dream. But I think that
Yeah.
like a good like up and coming brand or not up and coming, a good like steady brand.
Yeah.
You pay up a little bit more. Even like a Kia is
Honda.
phenomenal, right? They've been very consistent. So you're paying a little bit more blue for these brands.
Yeah.
Probably twice as much as like a Nissan or something, but
Yeah.
you're also getting a much higher quality asset with more stability. That's probably what I would do. I would also, well, let me kind of put a pin in that. But from a brand perspective, I think that's what I would look at.
That's interesting. What do you think is the challenges? Like, where do you see the biggest headache coming, either from the franchise or used car independents? Like, you talked about hiring and getting the right people, but as independents, like, what do you see coming down the road for us that like we're just completely oblivious to?
Look, we're still in this period of declining supply, used car supply. It's going to probably last for the next like 6 months before we kind of hit the trough and then maybe start rising. Um, in general, as an independent, and I still operate this like even a car dealership guy today. We're a team of part time, full time. We're 14 people, roughly half half, and I still very much operate with I operate in a very lean way. I can't shake that off. It's in my DNA to be very lean and and focus on efficiencies. Even though this is a much higher margin business, media, than a car dealership is, I just can't shake it off. And so the reason I bring that up is because I think as a dealer, it's a tricky time. The economy, or at least stock markets at all-time highs, which is kind of concerning because what happens, what goes up must come down, kind of like, it kind of goes back and forth. And again, that's a macro thing. So let's put that aside. Um, Used car supply is still declining. So it's getting more competitive and tougher to source. Affordability is in the gutter. It hasn't really been, fixed. And it's just, vehicle unaffordability has stayed pretty flat here for the last couple of years. Yes, there's some, OEMs trying to make more affordable new vehicles and whatnot, but that's going to take time. We'll see if it manifests. EV tax credits are going away in September. So that's not a good thing because every used car dealer I know is, eating up every used EV they can to get the,
Ah,
the tax credit, $4,000
ridiculous.
tax credit. Um, I'm, I'm personally, if I'm a used car dealer right now, I am trying to lower my day supply, by improving my turn. Again, it's obviously evergreen advice, but I just think that there's a lot of movement right now. There's a lot of change.
Mm,
And I would just try to, get a little bit more efficient, operate a little bit more lean, take a look at my expenses. Where do I have room to trim? It sounds kind of scarcity mentality, but I just think that it's important to, always as dealers to continue hunkering down and, just make sure we're running a very, very tight ship. And especially as an independent at a time like this with so much change. And so also, not to mention, as independents, we're so dependent on the lenders, right? The banks. And, you know, 30-day delinquencies, 60-day delinquencies are continuing to rise. And they've been rising for like 2.5 years, but it
Yeah.
doesn't make our case any better, right? When it comes to like where's our money coming from? It's coming from the lenders, right? Um, who is it? ACC, the bank I posted about, that just went out of business, or they just stopped doing indirect lending, I should say, after like 30 years,
yeah.
right? It's like there's just a lot of change. So I don't know. Unless you're really aggressively thinking like, hey, I want to grow super aggressively, and you're kind of putting on all on the line. As an independent man, I'm trying to lower my day supply and just be lean. Be trying to
Yeah.
focus on how I can remain lean with my fingers on the pulse and kind of get through these next 3, 4, 5 months of the year.
Yeah, and we've seen that expenses have been crazy since about 2022, right? And after COVID, everybody got bloated, interest rates rose, and I see that more and more with independent dealers. Their expenses are totally out of whack. They got too many people. They're spending money haphazardly. They're spending money on interest. So we've been preaching that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Expenses is a huge issue. And look, you're going to see, I do think one thing we didn't talk about is that I think from a technological perspective, um, I have this thesis that like the DMSs, someone will build a DMS from the ground up only using AI. Like, okay, so talk to like the smartest tech people, and they say everything will be rebuilt from the ground up using AI. Like AI first, AI native. I'm not talking about a company that's already existing and is injecting AI, or replacing some workflows with AI. I'm talking about building something from the ground up, a DMS with AI. Someone's going to do it. I am telling you, someone's going to do it. It's going to happen. It'll be some like celebrity auto tech entrepreneur. It'll be someone with deep pockets. Someone will do it. The question is when.
Mm,
The reason that's really a big deal is because I think you're going to start seeing. I think we've hit peak SaaS platforms in dealerships. I really do. Like, I think today the average that the franchise dealers spend on SaaS platforms is like 29,000 a month. I think that's from Steve Greenfield stat. And I think we've hit the peak in terms of quantity of platforms, not spend, but actual numbers of platform. And I think we're going to start declining now. And I think that's going to happen because we're going to see consolidation driven by AI. And I think that if you landed on planet Earth today and you could do anything you want and the car business existed and you said, okay, how am I powering the sale of a car from acquisition to disposition? I feel like the way you would do that is you would build a new product, from AI that does everything in one place. Like it tells me the inventory that I need and how much I should pay for it. Like, V-Auto. It gives me the option to buy it, right? Auctions or, dealer marketplaces. It gives me the option to price it. It gives me the option to communicate with the customer. Like these things are going to consolidate. I
It's
know they will. Go ahead.
Yoshi, it's consolidated inside Manheim. I mean,
It is, but it isn't. I
Cox
mean,
has
Manheim,
this.
um, do they have
Don't
it?
I mean,
I mean, they don't have it.
don't they have everything you just explained? Why can't they
No.
do that?
Well, first of all, they're not powering the DMSs, right? Reynolds, CDK,
Right, right.
Techion, like they don't own them. Um, they do have Vint Solutions, right? But it's not like these things are still very siloed. I think we're going to see these things start to combine. Like I said, something as simple as, um, you know, just imagine your website and like a V Auto being combined. Just
Yeah,
as an
yeah.
example, and your CRM. Like I feel like we're going to get to a world where everything is more consolidated under one application. It's not going to happen at once, but it's going to happen over time where we're going to just see these things combined, and ultimately it's going to make it easier for the dealer to manage their business because you'll have
Well,
everything in one dashboard, and I do think things will be easier when you're exposed to all that data and you can control it from one centralized location.
I totally
I
agree.
think
Jeff and I have talked about that many
we
times.
talk about it all the time. Dealers will spend $500 a month on 15 different widgets, new used car dealers, independents, but they
Hmm.
won't spend $5,000 for one system that could handle it all, right?
Because all the 500 ones don't work.
Some little widget and they don't communicate. And that's maybe where I would say the immediate solution to this is that these softwares, as they all start stepping on each other's toes, these SaaSes, because we know our CRM is starting to get a booking tool, and our booking tool is starting to get a customer communication platform,
They're
and
all
our customer
overlapping.
communication
They're all overlapping.
they're all
Yep.
starting to step on each other's toes. So if they can't play nicely because none of them have open integration APIs, right? If they would just have an open API system and talk to each other, then dealers, yes, we could a la carte our stack, let it all talk to each other and simplify our own lives. But it's not.
I think Yoshi's right. I mean, AI should be able to fix all this. You would think,
It's
right?
it really is crazy. And one thing we didn't mention is that in many cases, not always, but in many cases, the vendor has conflicting interests with the dealer, meaning these widgets, right? These
Yep.
widgets are
Sure.
every widget you add on your website gives the vendor more data, gives them, more success attributed to their tool, sure,
Yep.
but it harms the customer experience for you. It's one more thing that I have to X out if I don't use it. It's blocking my view. Like it's annoying. And so you really have to protect your virtual showroom as a dealer, right? Dealers protect their physical showrooms, but like what about your virtual showroom? If I go to your website right now and there's 10 pop-ups, that's an issue. I don't
Yep.
want to
Yeah.
shop there. So I think, putting that in mind, right? Like how are you protecting your virtual showroom and just future proofing it to make sure that it's a good experience and that that customer will be able to get the result they want. Remember, every online funnel is just how do I get someone from point A to point B? And it just so happens to be that your website is in the way of me getting what I want. Think about this, right? I want to buy a car and you're the dealership that I've identified. Your website is just a obstacle in that course. I need to get to actually buying the car. And so make it easy for me. Like I don't want to deal with your website. I want to buy a car. Your website is what I have to go through to buy that car. Make it
Mm.
easy for me. Don't make it complicated for me. That's the key.
So what do you think? I mean, does the online retailer have that figured out then, like a Carvana? Like their website is supposed to be smooth, easy, fast. I can buy it all from start to finish right here on my desktop. I mean, is that what you're talking about?
I think Carvana has solved many things, not all of them. I think that they have proven that they can build an incredible mousetrap. I mean, their tech and their experience is, in my opinion, it's the best in the industry. There's
Yeah.
just no doubt about it. Um, when they're it's you click on a car there. I mean, you have all the information, right? I mean, but listen, they have all these data scientists and engineers crunching every little tidbit and A/B testing the pictures, of this, the that. I mean, they're smart,
Yeah.
and they have the resources, right? So they're able to do it. Um, Look, I think there's a lot to learn from Carvana. I don't think Carvana is the only way. I think that not everyone wants to purchase a car that way. Carvana doesn't have every type of car. They at the end of the day, they're a private company with a finite balance sheet. Like they don't have unlimited capital. Like they're just not. They still have I think like a couple percent market share, which is meaningful, but it's a couple percent, right? In a big industry. So the point is, it's not. Carvana is a great company to learn from. I do think looking at their website, shopping them, mystery shopping them, trying their experience is a good use of dealers' time. I've personally have done it many times. But it's also they're not local, right? They don't have a local place a customer can come back to if they need to. You don't really have like a rep that you can deal with in person, assuming it's someone good in a dealership. Of course, that can be preferable for many people. You don't see the car before you're purchasing it. You could send it to a vending machine, I guess, but they kind of like you purchase it, you can return the car, but it's not like you can go,
Mhm.
see it, test it. So I think it's slightly a different value proposition. But I think that aside, they've done a very good job at the user experience. Their virtual showroom is extremely well done. So I think
Yeah.
that's what every dealer can learn from.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I've always told Luke, I'm like, dude, if I could get
Yeah.
their website, I want the ability to have a beginning to end transaction, but with a physical location, right? I don't want to push everyone online, but I want to have a more smooth start to finish there. And
Well,
Yeah.
yeah. Yoshi was talking about, and I never even thought about your website being a barrier, between the
It's
transaction.
Think
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah. I've
Your
always thought
website,
of the
I
other.
don't want to deal with your website. Your website's an obstacle
Yeah.
to me to getting what I want
But
from so
Carvana, that is how you get what you want. So you
yeah.
switch the narrative.
Yeah, well, exactly. And so you just got to make it easy for me. Make it
yeah,
as easy as possible. Um, you know, and so that I can ultimately get the reward as quickly as possible without much friction. That's ultimately what you're trying to solve.
yeah. And we don't need to get in the weeds any further on it, but I just start thinking like, well, the friction is having to come off, going to my website and then having to come off my website and call someone or talk to them or text a salesman or get in contact or show up at the store. Like, I would argue that then the website should have all that stuff built into it. Like, I want to know exactly what my payment is and what I'm approved on before I even step foot on the lot, maybe. So I could
Yeah,
see
and this
that
is the
website
power of
reducing that.
like Yeah, this is the power of, kind of vertically integrating like you have, right? Is a buy here, pay here, where if you are the lender as well, you have more control of that process and that sale and that experience, all right? Because you can show the right, the exact interest rate and other things, to a certain extent, you have that ability. And so that's the thing with this business, right? Where it's been built over so many decades and we've kept layering on these additional pieces, but many of them you have the manufacturer if you're a franchise, you have the lender, you have the dealer, right? You could have all these different pieces that they are a part of the vehicle buying and selling experience. And ultimately, your job as a dealer is to make sure they all sync and work as best as possible. Because at the end of the day, it's going to impact your customer. And
Yeah.
so, I spent a lot of time trying to figure out, like, whenever I talk to, um, just the smartest dealers, they're always, you know, like I spoke to one dealer, independent dealer the other day who does something. I believe it's with Manheim, right? Where, uh, you know, right as they purchase the car, it's right away it goes on their website, and this happens. Like everything is quick, it's integrated, it saves them time. It saves them their days on lot. And so these things, that's the more you can integrate, you can just create a better experience, improve your profits, just be a better dealer overall.
Interesting. So, Yossi, I'm going to wrap this up with getting a little personal here. So, CDG, you guys have got a lot going on. You've got the job board, you've got the daily podcast, you've got the newsletter, which is really great. Guys, if you aren't signed up for that, that's super informational. I love what you've done with it recently. Um,
You saw the
there was
redesign?
one other thing. What else?
Did you see the redesign? Did you notice
Yeah,
that?
yeah. I
we
like it.
we changed the entire aesthetic. Yeah, it was
Yeah,
just made it cleaner, more modern. So
yeah. No, it's
listen,
super
I
easy
care
to
about
read.
design. I really care about design. I think that there's a guy that said this once, and I agree, which is like design in a business shows people that you care. And I'm a huge believer in that. Like when I
Steve,
receive a newsletter that's like under designed or ugly, I'm just like, they don't care. Why should I care? I hate that. Like I
so if
literally
you,
hate.
Steve Jobs, I think
Oh
designed
yeah,
even the box of the Apple iPhone, right? How important it
literally.
was. And I mean, it's hugely important. So yeah,
Yeah. So what do you
Yeah,
guys have coming
go
up?
ahead.
What's next for your brand? What do you got going on?
So a lot. Well, look. So first of all, our mission is we are focused on transparency in the car industry, right? So as I mentioned, it's a very simple equation. The more dealers know, the better they are, the more money they'll make, and the better experience they will offer, which will lead to a better customer experience, and everybody wins. It's a
yeah,
rising tide lifts all boats. Okay, it's a win-win, positive sum game. Now, the vision is we say, like, we want to be in every dealer's pocket, which just means that I don't care how you consume my content. You listen, you read, you watch, right? You do like, telepathy. I don't really give a shit. Like, ultimately, I want you to get some value and you can consume however way you want. And it can be 5 minutes a day, 30 minutes a day, an hour. I mean, it's up to you. Um, and my favorite thing is when I meet a dealer and they're like, "Oh, car dealership guy, what is that? I haven't heard of it." Like, I love that. And you'd be surprised. It still happens. And we have an insane reach at this point, which you
Yeah.
clearly know and see, but you still meet people that haven't heard of you. And it's the best feeling because you know there's room for growth. So what we did was to give you context before I tell you what we're doing next is we spend the first, call it 2 years really building the breadth of our platforms, right? We had social channels. We expanded to additional social channels. We had the podcast. We had the newsletter, the news site. Our news site just got picked up by Google News. So now all of the news we're writing
I noticed that.
shows on Google News, which is huge. It's
Mhm.
huge. I mean, you're on next to Wall Street Journal.
Yeah.
It's massive. Um, Most recently, we launched Daily Dealer Live, which is our live show. And the funny thing story about that is we launched that because we said our podcast is amazing, but it's also more timeless. And we have our pipeline is booked out for like 2-3 months at a time. And so we didn't have a platform to bring on people for real time in the moment action news insights. And
Mm.
so we solved that with our live show. We said, let's go all in and let's bring on at least 3 guests per day or so. And we're gonna, do live segments. And truthfully, the straw like that broke the camel's back there was during the tariff mania when I was freaking out because I said, wait, we don't have slots available to air tariff news, and we need to do this now. How do we solve it? We solve it with another segment. So we launched Daily Dealer Live. It's now Auto's largest and most engaged, weekly show. It's
wow.
also the only live show, as far as I'm aware, that happens on a recurring basis. We bring top CEOs, we bring single point dealers. I mean, we bring everyone. Um, for me, the goal is continue to identify what are the biggest problems for dealers. And then asking myself, is this a media and content issue? Like, is this a knowledge gap? Or is this a service business or some other type of business that needs to be, is this a problem that needs to be solved via content media or through a service? Then I say, if it needs to be solved through a service or, with actual hard work, and I say that sarcastically, but like not with content or media, because again, I don't want to, I don't want to, I don't want to dismiss the work we're doing. We're doing extremely hard work, or anyone on our team. But the point I'm trying to make is like non-media work. Then that's a business that I will not personally do myself, but I will invest in someone that does it as a partner and let someone else run it. Right. For
Mhm.
example, CDG recruiting. Right. Dealers were coming to us guys, we need talent. And we know you have access to talent because you have hundreds of thousands of followers who are dealers and all that. And so I said, okay. I said, how do we solve that? Well, we solve it by, launching a recruiting practice, which is CDG Recruiting is doing a phenomenal job. It's a seven-figure business. It's been around for about a year. And it's a great, Stephen Adrani is the operating partner. And all we do is recruit talent for dealers, CDG Recruiting. Okay. Then we said dealers were coming to us and saying, hey, you're very good at social media. Can you help us with our social presence to drive more traffic to our stores? And we said, can we do this here? No. And so we partnered with a company called Nomad. It's trynomad.co, Nomad Content. And what they do is they work with dealers in order to help them create their social presence and drive more traffic. And it's, again, been a phenomenal success, seven-figure business. And again, in all these businesses I'm mentioning is I'm a partner, but it's not the full-time gig, right?
Yeah.
Back to car dealership guy, whenever something is a knowledge gap or is like a content issue, that's where I come in. And I say, okay, dealers want more surveys of other dealers. Boom, we can solve that right away. Dealers want a platform for live news that is relevant to them. Boom, we launch Daily Dealer Live. Dealers want a newsletter once a week about this topic, about that topic. They want to know what's moving in the market. What are best practices? What are the events happening in the industry,
Your
right? What should
tariff
I
tracker.
care about? Yeah, the tariff tracker, our buy sell tracker, what dealerships are being sold and bought, our recall tracker, right? What vehicles should you bring into your service department if you have one, if you're a franchise dealer? So the point is, I'm on a crusade to solve the knowledge issue in our industry. I think that we can create a generation of the most well-trained dealers, the most well-educated and knowledgeable and well-resourced dealers through our content and our education. That is what I focus on. Anything that is not in that lane is a distraction. I don't want anything to do with it on a daily basis. I will gladly partner with someone and either invest in them, incubate with them, but I will be a partner. I will support them with distribution, but I have zero time to be focused. My brain, like I'm not focused on that day to day. So
Yeah.
that's sort of how I am solving problems, but doing it in a way where I'm staying in my lane. And this is what I did not do as a dealer. I did not
Mm.
stay in my lane.
You're not
Right?
you're not the only one.
Exactly. Because we can't, right? The service manager quits. You got to become a fucking service manager,
Yeah.
right? Cool. You want your GM to go do it? Well, guess what? You have no one on the sales floor. Like you're under resourced, right? And so you're a generalist. You're doing whatever the hell you need to do to keep the ship afloat.
I love
And
it.
today, again, I'm running a business. I'm still a generalist, right? Obviously, I'm still kind of doing many, many different things. But today, I've learned that I am good at media, at content, I'm creative. Like I am staying in my lane. I don't want to run a recruiting practice. I don't want to do any of these other things. Other people, I'll partner with them and I'll complement them, but that staying in your lane is so freaking key, right? Know what you're best at. Are you the best dealer? Are you great at the desk as a dealer? Is that where you feel most comfortable? Like, where do you get your energy from ultimately, right? Are you great in the lanes? Like I went to the lanes for years. I didn't love the lanes. I think I was pretty good at it. I mean, I did well. I mean, we made a ton of money, but I didn't enjoy it. It didn't give me energy. Whereas like my father, like loves the lanes. Let him be in the lane all day, like find, the deals and all that. Great. That was not me. So I think today I'm much more about doing what I'm great at and offloading what I'm not great at and what I don't enjoy. And I think that's how you build a really great business.
Yeah. I find myself offloading everything. And then nothing gets done and I have nothing to do. So I think
Nah, I think you're doing pretty well for yourself, my friend.
I've gotten to the
I think
point where
you've done it.
it's not good. But I love that, Yossi. And let me ask one more question because I'll get a regret if I don't do it. Personally, what's going on with you, man? You got braces. That's super exciting. Um, what else, man? Like, you guys moving? Are you
Listen, it's
upgrading? Like, you're a big fancy, like, social. Does your family know you're famous? Like, does your wife know that, like, people know you? Kids care? Like,
so
how has fame
the
changed?
funniest thing is it's going to NADA and like suddenly at NADA, it's like, lots of people like saying hi and all that.
People are taking photos with you.
Um, yeah,
Is that
it's funny at
unreal?
NADA. I mean, you know, I'm, I have a lot of humility. It's just my
I mean, you
faith. Like
had your own
I,
booth. Come on.
no, I mean, well, that was in partnership with someone, right? And it was a sponsored booth from them. So, um, like, meaning we didn't pay for that, right? But I, I, first of all, like, the more this platform grows, I don't, I'm just, I don't consider myself like anything special. I really don't. Like, I'm just consistent. I'm doing it day in and day out. I'm doing my best. Some days are great. Some days suck. Um, I just try to, like, be consistent and continue putting out content. There's days where the content doesn't do well and like you're like, oh, I suck. I'm irrelevant. No one cares. There's days when everyone and their mother texts you and they're like, dude, this is the best podcast I've ever listened to. Da da da. The content business is like, there's these crazy ups and downs because you're constantly seeking affirmation from people. That's how you kind of measure the success of the content.
Mhm.
Um, and so the first thing is like there's like a line like I ain't shit. Like I don't I'm just a guy that is trying to do my best and I'm not better than anyone. I'm just really trying to learn every single day and get a little bit better. And I think that keeps me grounded. Because listen, there's I've had nice financial success from this business in a very short period of time. I've had just it's been personally rewarding. Um I remember when I closed my last company, I have this like constant fear in my life where I'm always scared to run out of money. It's like a subconscious, like it's just I can't, like, no
Yeah.
matter what, I'm scared. I could be like right now, I'm telling you, I haven't been a billionaire, but like I could be, and I still would be scared to run out of money. It's just how,
Same
when you
here.
yeah, and listen, as dealers, it's it's yeah, we're always living under pressure. But growing up, there were periods where we did not have money, and I hated, dude. I hated those. And it's not to say I lived in the street, but we got some donations and stuff when I was really young at certain periods of time, circumstantial, right? My parents went through a divorce. I remember like having to cut my own hair, so I went and bought clippers as like a 12-year-old, and like I didn't know how to cut my hair, so I just like buzzed it off, and that was when I started doing buzz cuts. Like there's like little moments like that in your life that define you, and I never want to be there again, ever. I didn't like, I didn't like that, but it does define you, and I think that. So you ask, personally, so like I said, I always have this fear of running out of money. It's just
Yeah, yeah.
innate. Um,
But
but I
have you sprung
also
on anything? Have you sprung on anything? Have you like
So, dude, I'm again, I'm going to disappoint you here, but the other thing with me is
you're like,
like,
I got a nice gently used Toyota Sienna.
right? Well, no, the more successful this business has become, I like the more simple I've become, and
Mm,
it sounds crazy, right? But like, it's almost stupid, but like all my clothes, like I very rarely wear like logos anymore. Um, I just like it's kind of like when you can buy many things or you can afford many things. It's like you don't want it anymore. Like I don't wear a
mm,
watch. I used to wear a watch. I don't wear a watch anymore. When I was a dealer, I drove like I don't know, like an M6 or whatever, like for fun. It was a
yeah.
demo. Like we sold it. It didn't cost me anything from the pocket, but it was inventory. But the point is, today it's like I don't really care what I drive.
Mm.
Listen,
It's a good
I'm
place to be,
not.
man. You're not trying to prove anything.
Yeah, yeah.
Love it.
I'm not trying to prove anything. I kind of like want to splurge on something. We rented a second home next to my dad. So like I think that's like some form of splurging. It's not something crazy fancy or anything, but you know, it's something that I wouldn't have done in the past. So so listen, long story short is I just want to build this business. I want to continue um becoming just the dominant voice in our industry. I think there's a lot more growth for us ahead of us. I think there's a lot of change in our industry. I think dealers need this type of platform and just continue iterating and just doing better, putting out more content for the industry. That's kind of what I focus on. I have kind of connected with my faith a little bit more recently. I think just being thankful because closing a business, letting down my family, investors. It was really difficult mentally. I was like, fuck. I was like, maybe I shouldn't do this business stuff. Maybe I should go be a farmer. I swear to God, I had these thoughts. I told my wife, and my wife was amazing. She's like, listen, she's like, she's like, we could go to a two-bedroom. Like, I'm with you. My wife also grew up with very modest means. She doesn't need a lot. And so that was very reassuring, right? Like as a father, as a husband, as a provider, I really believe that's our job as, like we're the providers, right? Like it's like you're scared, but she instilled a ton of confidence in me. And I mean, it's been great since then. So,
Well,
just staying very positive.
well, you're doing a great job, and we appreciate you being on here.
I
Yeah,
appreciate you
Yossi,
guys.
thanks so much, man. Look forward to all the great things that are coming, man. Every episode. I mean, as a guy who does podcasts, there's like 2 or 3 that I actually listen to because,
My
like you said,
man.
some are just like so full of it. You're like, this is not like, but kudos to
Yeah.
you, man. Love it. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, gents. This was super fun.